Holy hell, the sky is falling. I'm gonna talk about porn. We're gonna go to Buenos Aires. And well, there's a whole lot more coming your way. The QiRanger podcast starts now. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Steve Miller, the internet's QiRanger, and I would like to thank you for joining me here today. Whether you're here on YouTube or downloading the podcast from iTunes or QiRanger.com, hope you're having a fantastic day. Now, as we do every week, we are going to start off with the news, and I am recording this podcast on Wednesday, and today is a major news event because North Korea launched a long-range missile. Now, for the past week, this has been a big story here because we didn't know if North Korea was going to launch the missile. Were they going to postpone the missile? What exactly was going on? So here's kind of the deal with the launch. Roughly a year ago, Kim Jong-il passed away and his son, Kim Jong-un, took power. It's been widely rumored that he hasn't really solidified the base of his power in North Korea. So the move to launch a missile was largely being seen as a way to show that he has the power, show that he has the control necessary to continue to lead North Korea. South Korea, the United Nations, Japan, China, Russia all said, this is a bad idea, don't launch the missile. And everyone in the region has sent envoys or had communication with North Korea saying don't launch the missile. North Korea came back and said, well, we don't know what we're going to do. We're going to launch the missile. No, we're having some problems with it. They flew in some specialists from Ukraine, where a lot of the Soviet missiles and intercontinental ballistic missiles were constructed, so they had some outside help to really do the missiles. Then they were saying, oh, there's some other mechanical problems. Even South Korean news mentioned that the missile had been dismantled and moved away from the launch pad. And then all of a sudden, 9:51 on Wednesday morning, boom, the missile goes off. It was launched from a Western missile launch pad in pretty much a direct southwardly trajectory. Flew over Okinawa. Now, Japanese officials said that they had stationed military outposts out there saying that if the missile came their way, they were going to shoot it down. But they didn't. The missile ultimately broke apart and splash landed some 300 kilometers west of the Philippines. It's a 3-stage rocket, and for sure it passed the first stage. It looks like it got into the second stage, but not quite the third stage. Immediately after the launch, everyone went crazy. They started coalescing and trying to find out what happened and really why this was such a surprise. Both Japanese and South Korean governments called emergency sessions to try and get a handle on the situation. As I'm recording this, no other new information has come out, but I gotta say, it was a huge surprise for most. Now, I personally thought they were gonna go ahead and launch the missile, but like most others, I thought it was going to be next week, towards the end of the month, rather than on 12/12. But hey, North Korea is very good at doing what North Korea wants to do. As other things come about with this story, I'll be sure to share them either on Twitter or on the QiRanger Adventures Facebook page. So stay tuned. Since we have led off with North Korea, I'm going to continue with North Korean news. And there's an American being held in North Korea and has been for, quite some time. His name is Kenneth Bae, and he is a tour operator who's been to North Korea several times. But apparently someone on his tour was thought to be carrying an illegal hard disk or some kind of data disk and was captured by North Korea. The Swedes are American representatives there and trying to get him consulate access. But the Americans have come out and said, we don't believe that Mr. Bay is being abused or treated illy in any manner, but they are dedicated to ensuring that he gets out in a very timely manner. It goes on to say that in this story, he's been held for roughly about a month. So I'm really curious as to why it took so long for the story to come out in the first place. So those are the two big stories from North Korea, the launch, and of course, an American being held in captivity in North Korea. Coming down south of the 38th parallel, we have South Korean news. And, well, this story, well, it's going to get me hot and bothered. It's going to get me so hot and bothered. I'm just going to let you know straight off the bat. Last week, I heralded the welcoming news of changes to South Korean sex laws, especially as it refers to sexual assault. It was brilliant news. Long time coming. And earlier this season, I talked about a 51-year-old who lured a mentally disabled young girl to a hotel room and raped her. And I was appalled that he got 3 years for raping a minor. Well, folks, it gets even weirder now. This individual appealed the court's decision. Now, he was only offered 3 years in prison. He appealed that decision, and the higher court threw out the conviction. That's right, they threw out the conviction because he said he was remorseful. He regretted the action. That afterwards, he took time to clean the girl, to wash away her shame, and then carefully took her close to her home and dropped her off. Not to her home, but just close by. The matter gets a little bit stranger because the victim's mother also pleaded for the sentence to be thrown out. And so the judges did. And I have to ask myself, what the hell? The law was supposed to protect victims, especially innocent victims. Here we have a 14-year-old girl with a mental disability being raped by a 51-year-old. And he gets off scot-free. Now, personally, I believe that probably two things are coming into play. The conviction took place before this law, and for some strange reason, it isn't being retroactively applied. And second, I probably suspect there's some blood money being involved, and he's paying off the family so he gets out of jail. I think that's totally inexcusable. I think Korea was definitely on the right mark by making this a public crime, that blood money can no way wipe away the crime, and that this 51-year-old guy raped a 14-year-old girl. He needs to go away, not for the 3-year minimum under the old law, not the 5-year minimum of the current law, but he needs to go away for life, if not permanently. This individual, no matter how much regret you purport to say, can be excused for the actions. You fully well knew that you were raping an individual. And just because you say that, oh, I didn't understand the mental state of the young girl, I didn't know that she was a minor, it doesn't matter. You still raped an individual. And no matter how much regret you have, you still did the act and you need to pay the piper. Those are my thoughts. I really cannot believe that a week after it was announced that these changes were coming about in South Korean sexual assault laws, that such a travesty is being committed here. I don't understand. Okay, so another story that is slowly making the rounds, more so in the United States, but here as well, is Psy and Gangnam Style and his quote-unquote anti-American lyrics back from a few years ago. What I think is interesting here, and a few other people have pointed out, is the story first broke in Korea back in October, and here it is December, 2 months later, that's really coming about in mainstream media. And I think the Korean, from the Ask a Korean blog site, painted a really good picture in terms of what the situation was back in 2002. He pointed out that imagine South Korea as New York, and imagine Seoul as Central Park, and then imagine that the number of soldiers in Central Park outnumbered the civilians there. And then you take the frustration of everything that's happened, and you kind of get the mindscape of what many Koreans felt at the time. Some other information's come out that perhaps some of the translations of Psy's lyrics in the song weren't necessarily translated correctly, and even among professional interpreters there's some discussion as to what is the best interpretation of the lyrics. And I don't know. From what I've read and seen, it certainly appears as one very likely interpretation of the lyrics is that he was very disgruntled and used racial slurs towards American service members in regards to those that were beating and torturing prisoners in Iraq. And I think a lot of people around the world had negative feeling towards those that were committing acts of torture. Whether Psy used the actual intent to say that those individuals should be killed, I don't know. I'm not well versed in Korean. But it is certainly making the rounds here, and people are discussing the intent of those lyrics more and more. I thought the way that President Obama handled things at the Christmas celebration in Washington, D.C. was probably, I don't know. I mean, what he did is he did not acknowledge Psy by name, but it was too late not to cancel his appearance there. I'm not really sure. Probably one of the better ways to handle it would have been maybe to have him not appear that night, simply because there is so much controversy around what he did or did not say in regards to American service members. So that's what's going on with that controversy. But also this past week, it also came out that because his video, Gangnam Style, is getting so many views on YouTube, he's actually making more money online than through CD sales. And that reminds me of a great story. And this goes back to about 2010. 2011. 2011, I was having a meeting, a press conference here in Seoul, and an older reporter asked me what I did, and I let him know that I blogged and I made videos online. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, there's no money in that." And I had to actually sit him aside and say, "Look, I may not be making a whole lot of money, but I have several friends that are making a boatload of money, more so than you are in your traditional career." So I think it's the way that Psy is going about this. I think that it's really interesting to note that in one song, who's hugely popular, he's making more money than on a record deal. And I think as more and more artists are releasing songs online, I think this may actually come out with a new revenue model for artists. You can pretty much bypass a distribution method, release a song online, and boom, you get money from the ad revenue on YouTube. You can link it to an iTunes download, and voila, money, money, money. So interesting stuff there. Korean elections are also about a week away, and the interesting thing, so election season, I don't like elections no matter where you are in the world, but here in Korea, the elections are really interesting. And I first started seeing this a few weeks ago, and more so with Moon Jae-in's group than with the Sunari candidate, Park In. And so what they have is they have a truck, and the truck has a stage, and the stage then lifts up and has a big monitor. And they usually have someone in there giving out political speeches and maybe 4 or 5 people down in front. And then, after they say the speech, there's a musical number complete with dancing. I've never seen anything like it. And I don't understand what's going on, but I have to stop and watch it. And I can't believe that in the dead of night, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, they're out there campaigning for their candidate. It's cold, and they're doing synchronized dance moves. Amazing, amazing. I find that incredibly interesting. I've seen a number of elections take place here in Korea, and I have never seen anything like that. And I believe a few of my other friends who have been here all their lives have never seen anything like it as well. So maybe it'll be the sign of things that can come. More and more people taking the K-pop approach to doing election campaigning. This other story came out, was rather disheartening as well. When I asked my students what kind of job they wanted after graduation, many said that they wanted a government job because they thought it was very stable, but more importantly, because it offered a fixed pension following retirement. Now, the Korean government has come out and said that they are planning to raise the age of retirement from 60 to 65 in a play to offset the ever-increasing funds required to pay retirees. Now, currently the age of retirement is set for 60, but it'll be 61 in 2013 and then increase 1 year for every 5 years. So in 2033, the age of retirement will be 65. Now, this is really interesting. A parliamentary report has claimed that the National Pension Service could run out of money by 2053 due to the country's low birth rate and aging population. The Korean Peninsula is becoming an aging society with more than 14% of the population 65 or older, and the fertility rate is the 7th lowest in the world as of 2011. So as the population is getting older, there are fewer and fewer workers putting money into the pension fund simply because there are fewer and fewer people in Korea. Seeing as how we just surpassed 50 million people here, I'm really curious to see what exactly is going to be the best remedy. Deferring retirement really isn't going to be the solution because you're still going to have a large number of people out there. And of course, having guaranteed pensions isn't necessarily the answer, because if you do end up taking those away because you have no money, you cause all kinds of problems with your constituency. So huge financial problems looming in the future for here, Korea. Also, Korea is taking a page out of, well, I guess my home state's playbook. They're going to go non-smoking. That's right. The entire state is going to go non-smoking. Now, beginning December 8th, smoking in restaurant, bars, and bakeries will be gradually prohibited depending on the size of the facility. The ban immediately affects bars and restaurants of 150 square meters or larger, and it'll be gradually expanded to all restaurants and bars by 2015. A number of public facilities have already had the ban in place. Meanwhile, smoking in PC rooms will be restricted starting in June of next year. And I really find this very interesting because smoking is a huge, huge activity here in Korea. In fact, I know many people who have been smoking overseas, plan to stop, but once they get to Korea, because smokes are so cheaper, we're talking equivalent of $2.50 for a pack of cigarettes, they just don't. There's no reason to. The financial tariff that is in the United States and in Canada and other countries simply does not exist here. So you go in a cab and the driver is smoking. You go in a cab, you can smell the smoke in the back seat. You go to a number of different restaurants and everyone's smoking. Many, many times when we go to a bar or a coffee shop, the first thing that comes up is the server with an ashtray. Now, I will say that a number of restaurants and different facilities have smoking areas. In fact, I was just at a Tom and Tom's cafe today, and there is a balcony area that's open to the outside with an enclosed glass area so that there is a defined smoking area. And I assume that the ordinance that will be in place will have stipulations to mandate such enclosures. So if you're at the airport, which is non-smoking, there's a smoking lounge. Much like if you go to, Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, there's a smoking balcony and you have to press a door that slides open to get access to it. So in the winter it's enclosed, in the summer it's open to the balcony, but regardless of that, it's not mingling with the non-smoking area. So that's coming down. It'll be interesting to see how well that is received since, as I said, smoking is just pervasive here in this country. And another interesting story that just came out earlier this week, and it's about porn. That's right, porn. Here in South Korea, porn is illegal. That's right, you can't look at nudie pictures. No. The Nuri Corp, or the Internet Police, is a volunteer organization primarily made up of conservative Christians. And their job is to look at porn and find out what websites have porn, report it to the government so the government can block it on the internet. Now, everyone will tell you that simply blocking a site on the internet does not make it go away, and if you want to find porn, you can find porn. But these individuals spend hours and hours, there's some 800 of them, surfing the internet looking for porn, and over 2 weeks in this past August, the Nuri Corp found 8,200 sites. I tell you, there's got to be a better way to spend your time than looking for porn. Unfortunately, it's one more attack on free speech and is another markedly sign of censorship in Korea. I believe it was one of the journalistic societies who really came out and said that South Korea has one of the worst free speech laws on the book, and journalistic integrity is really tough here because you really have to be careful what you say. I really hope that as time passes, Korea moves into a full democracy with full free speech access. There's no reason why somebody who's in a dark room who wants to look at porn shouldn't be able to look at porn, and those that don't want to look at porn should just not look at porn and not worry what the other person is doing. That's what I think, and I really hope that some of the archaic laws about defamation change in years to come as well. So there is the South Korean news. Two other East Asian stories that came out this week. First up, Japan is reportedly having a second quarter in a row of a shrunk economy, indicating to some that the nation is heading back into a recession, which is very concerning to me. When you look at the economic policies here and the economic environment here in East Asia, the big players, Korea, China, Japan, that's what you have. To have Japan slide into another recession is going to mean that their buying power is going to decrease, which may affect South Korea and their ability to export goods to Japan and to other areas of the country, areas of the region. It's not a good sign because as robust as Japan is, I really hope that they do not fall into another recession. This whole worldwide recession is just horrible. And hopefully that the Japanese government will take steps to curb that backslide in the economy and come out on top. One interesting story, though, and this does relate to Japan, and this also affects the Philippines as well. The Philippines has come out saying that they would strongly support a rearm Japan and support changing its constitution. It really reflects a change that many in the country, or many in the region, have towards China. China is continuing to grow stronger and continually to beef up their military. Now, the elections in Japan are not too far away, and Shinzo Abe is committed to revising Japan's constitution to allow Japan's defense force to become a full-fledged military. And this doesn't mean that Japan's defense force doesn't have nice toys. They can certainly do the job, but those outside of the region really have shown some concern that rearming Japan and having a proper military may be the first step in returning to an imperialistic past. I personally feel that just changing the name of defense force to military is a moot point. Japan's forces in every way, shape, or form is a military force, and they have more strategic boats in the water than China does in the South China Sea. So if Japan can work together with Korea and other nations to promote peace in the region, I am all for it. And I think the Philippines is actually doing the right thing and coming out and saying, hey, we need to have a better presence in the area, and Japan is close to our nation, and if they do want to have the right to defend themselves and have a military force, then they'll support that. It also could come out that, I shouldn't say come out, it also stems the reason a large number of tourists do come down from Japan to the Philippines, so they're also looking at promoting their tourism dollars as well. So, one other interesting article came out just recently from Time magazine about why Japan has trouble saying they're sorry for past aggressions during World War II. And I thought it was a very interesting read. The article was pretty even-handed, stating that Japan has made several missteps in trying to apologize for misdeeds, not in such the way that Germany and Italy did during the Second World War, mainly because of the reactions to those they were apologizing to. Because, and I agree with this, if you don't want to hear an apology, then no matter what the other party says, we'll make amends. So the author puts blame on both sides of the coin, both to China and Korea and on Japan. So it was an interesting read. I'm looking forward to trying and looking more into this. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the news this week. Moving on for the content rewind, we have a lot of things that were released this past week. Most notably, making some hotoks at home. Oh my god. I'm speaking with a crappy accent, but that was such a messy endeavor. I gotta tell you, it was messy. Tasted fantastic. Utterly fantastic. That mix was brilliant. A lot of people pointed out in the comments that I should have used butter, I should have used oil, I should have used flour. And I actually thought about doing that while making the video, but I didn't catch that with the instructions, so I was trying to go as close to the instructions as possible. And the box itself said that you can get about 10 servings per box. And we made 3 rather large ones and then some smaller ones. So our total count was 8 at the end of the day. So the box is pretty accurate in terms of the actual serving size, the serving amount that the mix created. It tasted just like the street. It was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. I can't wait to make it again. But I will be making it with oil on my hands to try and make it a little bit easier, not as sticky. Nothing else really went on with that video other than it was just so sticky. But looking back, as soon as we were done, Joe and I ate all of the hot dog. We ate them all. So good. So the link's in the show notes, as well as a link over to the Korea blog with some extra information about the article. On Friday, John Fampants, he was here a few weeks ago, and I shot a video while we were out exploring Seoul one day. That was a GoPro video with the Edge mic, and it was just a lot of fun hanging out. We went to Gyeongbokgung, we went to Cheonggyechon, we had some great juk for lunch, and then we went to Bukchon, Hanok Village, and it was just a nice, relaxing time and an opportunity for me to show John his really inside look at a lot of different things in Seoul. So if you want to see a more relaxed type video of what walking through Seoul would be like in a day, check that one out. The show notes are there. Also, a vlog about omerak. Yes, omerak, Korean brandy. That was so much fun. And believe it or not, it really was the truth. Joe went to a makgeolli making event over a year ago and bought what she thought was makgeolli. And I was like, oh, okay, makgeolli, it's good, whatever. And it was sitting here, actually underneath my desk for the past year. And it was, all right, let's go have some makgeolli. And I opened up, I'm saying "and" a lot, but I opened up the box and I looked at it. And I said, holy smokes, this is brandy. Brandy, I tell you. And the original intent was to open it while John was here, but he brought me some delicious bourbon. Bourbon is so nice. So during his stay here, we had the bourbon instead of the brandy. So for this video, we used the GoPro, popped it open. It was fantastic. Now that particular video, I actually used two GoPros. Joe shot the video with one GoPro, and then I actually used this Edge microphone to plug into my second GoPro to use it as a sound recorder. Worked pretty well. Very pleased with it. That link is also on the show notes. And also last week, I went to a Jjimjilbang with Idami in Korea today. This was a blast. This really was a blast. They called me up a few days in advance and we set up a time to meet. It was over in the Sinchon area of North Seoul. And oh my gosh, I've been to Jjimjilbangs all around the country. They've all been electric Jjimjilbangs. This one was different. They actually use wood and coal to heat the different rooms. So you go into the Jjimjilbang place, a little bit more expensive. I think 10,000 won was the price to gain access there. You go in and then go down to the outside. Outside is where the kilns were. And there were 3 of them. And beside each of the kilns were these essentially hearths. And inside the hearths were coal and wood. And in one instance, flames coming up 3-4 feet in the air. Massive flames. And inside, it was brick and with clay over on the inside. It was fantastic. It really was. It was a brilliant, brilliant place. I wish I had to go teach later in the day. So I was really disappointed I couldn't actually stay there longer, because that would have been a great way to start a morning. So those 2 live connections are in the show notes, as well as a link to an article about the Edge microphones. Carl Kwan, friend of the podcast, friend here in Seoul, first introduced me to the Edge microphones a while back, and I actually was looking at possibly getting some a while back, but never just got around to it. And then we had an opportunity where he actually allowed me to use one and gave me one, and I was really, really pleased with the quality of the microphone. So much so that I wanted to buy some more. So I went to the website and tried to purchase them, but everything's in Korean. I really couldn't understand anything going on with the microphones, with the website, whatever. So I sent an email to the owner and said, hey, I want to buy this microphone, I want to buy this bass extender. Can I please work with you off the website to wire you the money and have those shipped to me? And because of another video that I did where I showcased the microphone, he sent me the microphone for free, which I really do appreciate. The mics have been really, really impressive because they're so small and they pick up so much clear sound that using them with the GoPro for vlogging is really, really nice. Next week, you'll see a new series, a new vlog series on the QiRanger channel where I talk about things here in the office, topics here in the office, but intercut that with scenes out in Seoul, out in Korea as I travel. And they're all going to be GoPro. They're all going to be GoPro with the AGT microphones because I can just take the camera, stuff it in my pocket, have good sound, have a good image, and I'm really jazzed about doing this series. So you can read my thoughts about the AGT by clicking the link in the show notes. I think Monday, this past Monday is when the article went live on my site. I currently use the ETM001, which is the small mic that plugs right into the side of the GoPro camera. This is the 006, the lav mic, which I actually have plugged right into the camera as well. And then there's the base station that you can plug on the desk and plug either this microphone or the other microphone directly into. And everything works great. I've been really, really pleased with them. The only thing I don't like about the ETM001 is when I'm on a train or a bus, since it picks up so much noise, so much sound, the low frequency noise creates a lot of popping in it. And that I'm not really wild about. So I usually have to unplug the mic when I'm on a train, or I have a different travel mic with me that I can use to capture sound that isn't so popping. But otherwise, fantastic. So if you have a GoPro and you want to use it for vlogging, really recommend these mics. They're so cheap. As I said, under $25 US for the AGT 001. Great for vlogging. And finally, in the Content Rewind, a quick impromptu video response to Lindsay over in Gangwon-do. 30 is not old. That's right. She's turning 30 in a month and is starting to, or I guess later this year, and wants to do 30 goals, complete 30 tasks before she's 30. Because she made it in the video, she said, "It's so old." And I just wanted to send a message to her saying, 30 is not old. I'm over 40, going to be 42 pretty soon. I guess that means I'll know the answer to everything. Hey. But I just sent a quick message saying, you're not old at 30. Many people in Korea say that when you hit 30, you are old. But I've never experienced that. I first came to Korea when I was 37 years old. And I've never had a problem relating to kids. I've always had a lot of fun with everybody. And yeah, 30 is just the beginning. So, Lindsay, 30 is going to be the start of something fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Content Rewind. We'll be back in just a second. This week on the Quintessential Quartet, we're going to tackle something near and dear to my heart as I finish another semester of teaching. And that is, of course, tips for teaching in Korea. 4 things I think you need to know. Now, first up, I want to say that I think one of the most important things about teaching in Korea, and this pretty much goes universally around if you're in the ESL environment, you have to remember that your students' English ability most likely far outweighs and is vastly superior to your knowledge of their language. So here in Korea, even though my students speak very, very broken English, if they're at a low level, their understanding and communicative ability in English is better than my communicative ability in Korean. And it's a very humbling experience because I see how much trouble they have in formulating the sentences. I know that they don't practice outside of class. I know they don't have an opportunity to practice with that many friends outside of the classroom. Just like I'm very busy. I don't make a lot of time to study Korean here in Korea, even though I'm surrounded by Koreans, and on the average day, I don't see another foreigner. But their skills in English are better than my skills in Korean. So when I plan a lesson, that's always one thing I am considerate of. That if I have an objective, if I have a grammar point or vocabulary point I'm trying to convey during that lesson, as I'm planning things out, I try to think of 4 or 5 or 6 different ways to explain this one topic. Because what I may think as the easiest or most simplest way to explain a concept to a second language learner may not be the one that they understand. Maybe 5 people out of 20 will understand it that way. So then I have to go to the second way and explain it to them, which then reinforces the first group, and so on and so on. But ultimately, I'm able to find a way to convey the knowledge. And I think the easiest way to do that is always be mindful that what it would be like if I were in their shoes, trying to learn a foreign language, having such little comprehension. And since I have such little comprehension of Korean, it makes things easier for me as an instructor as I plan things. So keep in mind, the more you learn Korean, it also becomes easier for you to explain things in Korean about English to those students, or vice versa if you're teaching a different language. So keep that in mind. Number 2, have clear-cut expectations in class. When you start a class at the beginning of a term, it's always good to say, these are the rules for class. This is how you will be evaluated. These are my expectations. And if you do not follow the expectations, these are the consequences. Many, many times, instructors really want to be the nice guy. They want to be loved. They want to be well-liked. And there's nothing wrong with that, provided that you have control in the classroom. A lot of times, you can be caught up being the nice guy so much that discipline and classroom management is tough. But if you have clear-cut expectations and you manage the classroom well, you can actually have a great time in class. And your students will respect you and they'll adhere to all the guidelines. When I was teaching elementary students, we played games all the time in class. We had fun all the time in class. But my students also knew when I said stop, I meant stop. They also knew that beginning of the class was for homework and they needed to have everything ready right at the beginning of class. Same thing goes for my university students. They know that class starts like at 9:30. But because of transportation issues, I will start the class at 9:35. However, at 9:35, I also lock the door. And if you're late past that time, you have to wait until break time to be let in. And calling doesn't work, doesn't matter. You have to be there on time. And if you're late to class, well, too bad. Your homework is no longer accepted. It has to be there before class. Actually, I did have one student who was running late because of train issues or because of sleeping late, email me his assignment because he was going to be late. And I also told my students, if you're going to be late or you're going to be absent, you need to email me your assignment early to have it count. And he did that, and I thought it was brilliant. So, tip number 2, clear-cut expectations. Really, really important. It's always easier to be strict and toe the line at the beginning of the semester and ease up through the semester rather than be easy at the beginning and try to reel folks in at the end. It's very tough to do that. So always be more hardline at the beginning. Tip number 3, make it interesting. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Imagine being a student, elementary student, high school student, doesn't matter. Imagine being a student going from morning until 10 p.m. at night. Long, long hours, 5 days a week, weekend classes. As an instructor, if you are not creating an engaging lesson, you're going to lose your students. If you're an instructor having to do the same lesson time and time again, if you can't keep your energy up, if it's not mentally stimulating for you, how are you going to convey it to your students? You've got to make it interesting, not only for yourself, but for your students, and always strive to do that. The more you understand your students, the more you interact with your students, the more that you understand their environment, the better you are able to create engaging lessons for your students. So please, 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 have fun with your students, get to know your students, get to know what makes them tick, and then tweak your lessons to not only convey the lesson's objectives, but do it in a manner that's relevant for them, that keeps them engaged. It's a win-win every single time. And finally, boom, number 4, be ready for anything. Especially here teaching in Korea, it's very common to be thrown stuff at the last minute. All of a sudden, you got to teach a class. All of a sudden, you have this going on. Many, many times here at the university, we have festivals, or different colleges have different activities during different times of the week and different times of the semester. So I can prepare a lesson, walk in the class, and have 3 students because the rest of the class is major X, and that major is doing a seminar that day that all the students need to go to. There are times where there's a sports festival at the university, and during my class period, everybody at the university has to go to the sports festival. So now I need to change that week's lesson and postpone it to next week's lesson and move things around to make sure I complete all of the semester's objectives within the time frame I have so the students are ready for their final exams. It's just the way things are. And if you try to control the uncontrollable, you'll pull your hair out. You'll go mad. So just learn to roll with the punches and have a good time. That's what I recommend. Anyway, those are 4 things. The Quintessential Quartet. I said it again. The Quintessential Quartet. The Quintessential Quartet about teaching here in Korea. If you have a topic you would like me to cover in the Quintessential Quartet, please drop a comment down below or shoot me a message at podcast@QiRangers.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to set course for adventure once more, and I am pleased to welcome back to the podcast Michael Tieso of theartofbackpacking.com. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Steve, thanks for having me again.
Now, where are you these days?
Well, right now I'm based in Washington, D.C.
Ah, that makes 2 weeks in a row we've had DCers on the podcast. Maybe you know the previous guest, Stephanie.
Yeah, I know her a little bit.
I had a great time talking with her last week. So this week, where are we talking about this week?
We're flying over to Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Ooh, Argentina. I've always wanted to go to Argentina and stand on a big balcony and sing Don't Cry For Me, Argentina.
Oh, yeah. You can actually go to that balcony, too.
Really? Does it cost money to go there?
No, it's actually free.
Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to go there and make a video and just memorize a song and sing Don't Cry For Me, Argentina.
What's funny about it, an interesting fact is where it happened in the movie and where it happened in real life are 2 different places. I forget which one is which, but I know it's 2 different places because they wouldn't let them film in the actual spot.
Oh, that would have made it all the more impressive. So before we talk about musicals and Madonna and Antonio Banderas in the film, what can you tell us about Argentina, our destination today?
Well, Buenos Aires is the capital of Argentina, so I'll be talking about specifically Buenos Aires. But
okay.
Buenos Aires is the second largest city in South America, so it's filled with people. It's got 12 million people just in the metropolitan area. And it's also the most visited city in South America, so you can imagine just the sheer amount of people between the population and the people visiting.
Really? So I wouldn't have pictured Buenos Aires as the most frequented city. I would have pictured maybe like Rio up in Brazil.
That is the most populated city, but not the most visited city.
Wow. See, that blows me away.
Sao Paulo, Rio, one of those is like one of the most populated.
Right. I mean, we're talking visitors for tourism, but I don't really hear many people talk about going down to Argentina, but that's amazing. That is amazing. So very cool. So what about like the actual look and feel of the city? What is that like?
Well, if you've been to Europe, they call it the Paris of South America. So everything's really European, mostly Spanish, Italian, and a bit of French as well. So everything between the architecture and even the culture, it really takes on the European culture because basically most of the population of Argentina immigrated from Europe to Argentina.
Oh, okay. And how's I mean, there's several different ways of getting in there, but what ways can people actually arrive into Buenos Aires?
Well, the easiest and cheapest way to get there is probably just direct flights because the airport there is really big and popular. There's direct flights really from almost any part of the world, and if it's too far, I'm sure there's a connecting flight that would take you directly to Buenos Aires. It's the most popular airport, obviously, in Argentina, so it's pretty easy to get there. But flights within South America, in general, South America could be more expensive than other parts of the world.
Oh, really?
When it comes to flights, yes.
Okay. You kind of see that with other countries around the world where domestic flights, for some reason, are fairly expensive, but to and from the country aren't that bad. In terms of once you're there and getting around, what's the transportation situation like?
Well, for Buenos Aires, the taxis are pretty affordable because it's a big city and traffic can get pretty crazy, so it's not always the best way. So taxis, although it's affordable, maybe you're not going to really get there that fast. And if there's traffic, then it might cost more than just walking or taking mass transit, so it's not always the best. But subways are super affordable. This is like... It's $1 is close to 5 pesos right now.
Mm-hmm.
A subway is 2.5, so that's like 50 cents.
Holy smokes, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's really cheap to take the subways there. So everyone just takes the subways, or even better are the buses. That could be even cheaper, maybe 10 cents, because it depends on where you're going with the buses.
So okay, let's talk about traveling within Buenos Aires. So the subway's cheap, 2.5 pesos. What kind of fare? You mentioned like 10 cents. So we're talking what, 1 peso or half a peso for fare for a bus?
For the bus, yeah, not 90 cents. I mean, prices change dramatically because of the inflation, unfortunately, over there right now. But when I was just there, like last year, it was 90 cents to most close enough places.
Okay, so that's not too bad.
Pretty far than, I don't know, maybe 2-3 pesos more or something. It's pretty cheap. The buses are definitely the cheapest.
Okay, now, as far as hours of operation, do the subways and buses run around the clock, or is there a start and end time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Subways are actually 24/7. Imagine it like New York.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Like New York, you gotta maybe wait 15 minutes or half an hour for a bus to come, but you're good no matter what time it is anyway. Subways though don't run 24/7.
Okay.
But buses do.
Buses do. Now what about taxis?
Well, I was just saying the taxis I think are affordable and they're good, but because of the traffic in the city, it's not really the best method always. In the middle of the night, it's great because no one's on the road.
Now, if you were like to head someplace like out of town or hit up a number of destinations in a single day, do you have the option of hiring a taxi all day long, or do they not really want to do that?
I haven't heard of that before because most of them are metered.
Okay.
And if they say unmetered, then you might be getting ripped off. So it's always best to just get metered taxis.
Okay. As far as finding a place to stay in Buenos Aires, what kind of options are available?
So this is the crazy thing about Buenos Aires. It's actually one of the most hostels for this. Well, not the most. It's probably one of the most hostels in a single city, and hotels as well. So it's got a ton of options for accommodation. Too many, really. So the problem with that is, well, you got a lot of crappy ones, and you got a lot of good ones. There's just too many to choose from.
Okay. Now, when you were last there, where did you stay?
I actually rented an apartment because I stayed there for a while, which is also another pretty good option. If you go to websites like Airbnb and stuff, where you can rent an apartment if you're planning on staying there for 3 months or more, it's pretty good. Or even 2 months. An apartment rental is pretty good in that city.
Okay. Now, in terms of different neighborhoods, since this is the number one visited place in South America, and there's options all over the place, what are some other I guess areas where people could look to base themselves out of?
That's good. The thing with Buenos Aires is you got a lot of different districts, and each district is, well, a different type of atmosphere. Well, one is more modern and some are more historical. So when you're picking a place to stay, you should pick, well, what do you want? Do you want a very modern, very new kind of city, or do you want to look for something that's more rich in history? Mm-hmm. So one of the fanciest, richest, most, maybe most beautiful area in terms of just modernness is Puerto Modelo, which is just really fancy and new, but it's also most expensive.
Okay.
A lot of the Hilton is over there, so you can imagine there's a lot of nice hotels over there.
Sure. All right. Now, what kind of things would you recommend for people to do once they get to Buenos Aires?
Buenos Aires is a good walking city, so you can get to each one of these districts. Even if you stayed in Puerto Modelo, you can go to you can walk to San Telmo, which is more for colonial style houses. Mm-hmm. And it's not that bad of a walk. You might be exhausted by the end of the day, but it's a pretty good walking city. We can get to most areas walking, and you can just take in the scenery. I think what I tell most people really is the great thing about Buenos Aires is just the people, and just to watch the day go by. Mm-hmm. It's just to go to a coffee shop, sit down, get a magazine or a book or whatever, and just watch the world go by. And if you want to be a local, you can get an espresso and a pastry.
Ooh, that could really hit the spot right about now. I haven't had enough coffee yet today, and I'm thinking that it's about time for
not enough coffee. I've never heard you say that before.
I just haven't had enough. I need some more. And imagining myself in Buenos Aires sitting in a cafe with maybe a few espressos, having a little pastry. A few espressos. You can't just stop at one. Come on, and just taking in
they sit there for hours.
Oh yeah. That'd be a fantastic way. See, that's one of the things I most enjoy on my trips is finding a great cafe and sitting down and having a coffee. And to hear you mention that is one of the best things to do just brings tears to my eyes. It's pretty French and Italian too, where they just kind of sit outside, where they just kind of just sit there for hours sometimes and just look at a magazine and have coffee. That's fantastic. Now let's talk about food. What are some great dishes and places to eat in Buenos Aires?
Well, I have to say that one of the reasons why I love Buenos Aires is because that's where my family is from. Mm-hmm. So I know it really well. So I was growing up with this food. So I know everything to do with Argentinian food. So I used to go there all the time, especially as a kid.
Mm-hmm. All right, so spill the secrets.
The ice cream in Buenos Aires is delicious. It really is. It's really good. And it's not gelato, but it's almost a gelato. Okay. It's pretty close to it, and it's amazing. And my favorite place to go, and it's a big chain. It's easy to find. It's called Volta, Volta, and I think that's my favorite. And the selections that they give you, it's just like 2 dozen different flavors.
Ooh.
You spend half an hour just trying to choose a flavor. It's ridiculous.
What's your favorite flavor?
Oh, dulce de leche. It's like sweet milk. It's like caramel almost.
Oh yeah, I know dulce de leche. Oh, it's so delicious.
I mean, you can buy them by like a kilo. We used to just get quarter kilos. So you just get 3 flavors and get a quarter of a kilo. It's a lot. It sounds like a lot,
but it goes quick.
You can't have enough.
It goes quick. Okay, so we have the ice cream. What else do you recommend in Buenos Aires?
Well, the pizza for sure. That's very big over there, and that was brought in from the Italians, and then they just kind of made it their own thing.
Okay.
It's totally different than what Italian pizza is.
So how is it different?
Well, it overflows with cheese. So you really have to like cheese, or then you're gonna hate it. You can't pick it up. You have to get a knife and fork.
Oh my gosh! Now is it very thin crust, or is it thicker to handle the weight of the cheese?
I don't know if you can actually grab it because the cheese kind of flows outside of the crust.
Oh my gosh! Oh, pizza and coffee, 2 of my favorite things. 2 of my favorite things. What else is great in there?
Well, the bakeries. This is kind of an insider info, and I don't know why tourists don't do this. The bakery shops are really good over there. Just go in, if you smell some bread, especially in the morning, go in there. You don't even have to speak Spanish at all. You just grab a basket, and then you just start selecting different pastries. And this is a pretty common breakfast, and they have all they're very sweet pastries with like dulce de leche fillings inside.
Oh, okay.
And they're called facturas.
Now, you brought up that you don't have to speak Spanish when ordering the pastries. In general, do folks need to be able to have some Spanish language ability to feel that they can travel well in Buenos Aires, or is there a significant English-speaking population there?
When it comes to the younger people, yes. I think most of them know a little bit because they're taught in school. Mm-hmm. Older generation, definitely not. Especially the taxis, they don't really speak English. It probably helps to know some Spanish, but I don't think it's required to really know much. Maybe maybe just know some foods is really key. Okay. So then you know what to order.
No, go ahead.
English and Spanish are pretty similar, where you could see pizza is spelled, the same way.
Sure. Now, in terms of meat, does Argentina have a special barbecue?
Yes, and it's called asado. And asado at a parrilla. And it's a barbecue. And this is every week in my family's house over there. We used to just get a ton of steak and just barbecue it in the back. So I say to everyone, if you know someone in Buenos Aires, the best meat you'll have is from the local butcher shops, and get invited somehow to a family's house, because that's where they always have the best meals.
Okay. Any other? Go ahead.
But not everyone can get to the opportunity to see a local family. So the best restaurant I think for me, I think is at this restaurant called La Cabrera, and I think they have some great barbecue. If you go there at 7:00, they got half off. That's a great deal.
That is a good deal. That is a smoking deal, because half off of anything is always a good deal. Any other tips to share with the listeners and viewers that would help them get more out of their trip there?
Yeah, well, I'm a Boca fan. It's a soccer team.
Okay.
And I'm a huge Boca fan. So I definitely recommend someone to go see one of their games. They are the most popular team in Argentina and probably just South America overall. It's a very, very popular team. And the stadium is really cool. And the neighborhood where it's in, Boca is really awesome. So I always tell people, check that out.
Very cool.
So you might have to get like the hotel or hostel to arrange tickets because it can be pretty complicated.
Okay, that's always helpful. Anything else?
Yeah, well, one last thing is the tango. I think that's the most well-known type of music in Buenos Aires. So while you're there, you gotta check it out.
All right, very cool. Do you tango well?
I've taken a few lessons at this place called Virtua, and I don't know if I can say well. Maybe I know like the basic 8 steps and a few other steps beyond that. But
do you step on feet?
In the beginning, yes, but not anymore.
Oh, very cool.
It's just there's no rhythm. Like the rhythm is just so different than what we're used to.
Okay. I've taken one tango class, and I was not a master at the end of the class, so it's something I need to go back and experience once more.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Michael, thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow all of Michael's adventures over at theartofbackpacking.com or on Twitter at theartofbackpackin. No G, it's just in. But you can also get all the links at the show notes on QiRanger.com, so make sure you click the link. And Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that will just about do it for this week's podcast. I would like to thank once more Michael TSO from theartofbackpacking.com for joining me this week on Set Course for Adventure. If you have a comment about the podcast, please leave it down below or send me a message at podcast@QiRanger.com. If you have any questions, you can send me those messages at questions@QiRanger.com. To keep up with all my adventures here and around the world, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just look for QiRanger. Until next week, remember to be true to yourself and always be awesome.